In the world of Chainsaw Man, not every devil is to be considered equal, and the Primal Devils are a perfect example of that. Primal Devils are the devils that embody the darkest fears that exist within the human mind, which makes them devils that exist in an entirely different tier of power when it comes to other devils that we see in this series, including devils as powerful as Makima and even hybrids like Denji. Their power is so great that even devils and fiends find themselves in utter fear of them. This leads us to the Primal Devils being so powerful that none of them have ever actually been killed, which means that none of the Primal Devils have ever been to Earth. In the Chainsaw Man story, so far, only one Primal Devil we've seen, and that's going to be Darkness, but the Darkness Devil more than lives up to the billing of being a Primal Devil and the expectations you might have of that. The Darkness Devil draws on its power from the innate primal fear that humans have of the dark, and it's one of the strongest and oldest fears that mankind has ever had, which makes perfect sense for the Darkness Devil to be rooted in this fear and in this power. Through evolution itself, humans have developed a tendency to be scared of the darkness. In the dark, our visual sense and prowess is no longer what we're used to. It's basically non-existent. We can't properly see what's going on around us, and as humans, we overly rely on our sense of sight to locate and avoid danger, which is why in the Stone Ages, man created fire. Even in our own everyday lives, darkness is still a fear that exists. It's why well-lit neighborhoods are desirable and why people leave on lights on their front doorsteps or they avoid walking in dark alleys, because anything could be lurking in the darkness, and not everything inside the darkness is friendly. In most cases, it isn't. Darkness brings out the fear of the unknown. That fear in turn brings out vulnerability. And for humans whose very existence is short and their bodies are fragile, being vulnerable could end up being a death sentence, and death is something that people fear. That fear is what powers the Darkness Devil and makes it so much stronger than the other devils in the Chainsaw Man world that we've seen. However, what are the powers of the Darkness Devil, and what is it about those powers that make even devils so afraid of it? Well, in short, because it is a being that so greatly transcends all the other devils in existence, it hasn't actually been killed, because so far there's been no equal or near equal introduced in the manga to the Darkness Devil. The closest we've seen was when Makima was able to inflict damage on the Darkness Devil, and when she did so, it came at the expense of her arm, which implies that the four horsemen of devil at least have the power to damage the Darkness Devil, but they themselves can't actually kill it. On top of being able to take attacks from someone as powerful as Makima, the Darkness Devil is able to use all the same normal powers of other devils, such as blood consumption to heal itself on the by chance it ever actually ends up getting harmed, and it's able to create contracts with humans to allow them to use its power in exchange for something in return. However, we've seen in the manga that the Darkness Devil has enormous physical strength and equal impressive speed, because it was able to speed blitz some of the strongest devil hunters that we've seen in the series, and it was able to do so without them being able to track its movements, and it was shown being able to move so fast that we've seen people get sliced to bits with several attacks before they even realized what happened in the first place. To put this into perspective for you, the human eye isn't exactly slow. The human eye can see up to 60 frames per second, and the human brain can process images seen by the eye in just 13 milliseconds. According to Vision Direct, for an object to be moving so fast that the human eye can't see it and the brain can't process the image of it, the object has to be moving at 17,500 meters a second or 38,000 miles per hour. For the Darkness Devil to be moving so fast that at first trained devil hunters couldn't see its movements, let alone see its initial attacks, that's very telling. Though you can argue on the numbers of the speed, that's not necessarily something that we do here over on the channel, but you at least have a frame of reference for your own highball or lowball arguments that you have down in the comment section. So its greatest power is that of darkness manipulation, which, as the name implies, allows it to manipulate darkness, and it's able to play off the fear that mankind has of the dark. But there's more to it than just that. The Darkness Devil can transform itself from being in its normal appearance, where it takes on the form of a shape that consists of numerous human bodies clustered together, to changing itself into a mass blanket of darkness that covers the entire area. When this happens, you see several bodies of bisected humans in the process, which further adds that primal fear that a person might have of the dark, because as the world turns to dark, there are disemboweled figures that have been bisected, which brings out the primal fear a person has of being in the dark and having bad things happen in the dark, which in turn makes the darkness devil stronger. It also has the power to summon a giant black blade that it can telepathically begin to control, and it can also use it to attack its enemies. But this isn't just some random blade that's meant for stabbing people. To say that would be to downplay the power of the darkness devil. So if you look closely at the blade, there are bells on the hilt of the blade. Those bells are what makes this blade so much different than any other blade you might see being used in Chainsaw Man. When a person's hit by the darkness devil's black sword, the bells begin to ring and the person will suffer a brutal hemorrhage, which is a release of blood from a broken blood vessel that happens inside or outside the body. That takes you from worrying about a nick or a cut from the blade to when it merely touches you and the bells begin to ring, you're worrying about an extreme hemorrhage instead. Just like Makima, it also has the power of force manipulation. The power allows it to use an invisible force power to inflict damage upon the enemy. However, this power is slightly different from how Makima uses this ability. So with Makima, we've seen some brutal uses of this power, pun intended. But with the Darkness Devil, there's a whole different level of brutality here. So just by looking at a person or at a devil, the Darkness Devil can make them hemorrhage insane amounts of blood and force them to bleed themselves dry of every drop inside their body. That is a very brutal way to die. Like Makima, just by pointing his finger at you and using force manipulation, it can damage your body. We've also seen the Darkness Devil change the level of output to this power by changing his hand position when using it, like when the Darkness Devil twisted Makima's arm while using this power. The usage of this power, it doesn't stop here either. It can also use this power to cut off the limbs of humans and fiends and devils in mere moments. In the blink of an eye, we've seen entire arms be severed from the body. We've seen the Darkness Devil outright destroy bodies simply by chanting a word while doing so. When it made its devil contract with Santa Claus, which requires Santa Claus bringing Denji's heart to hell, Santa Claus is given small pieces of the Darkness Devil's flesh, which allowed him to manipulate darkness and increase his own power. Just a small bit of flesh from the Darkness Devil comes with an enormous amount of power, but this makes a lot of sense when you think about it and you think about how devils actually work, which if you don't know, you want to check out my video, Devils Explaining Chainsaw Man, which I'll leave a link to down in the description box down below. So darkness is the oldest known fear to man, and it can be argued that since darkness existed before mankind, fear of darkness would actually predate humanity itself, which is why it's so powerful. Even for someone like Denji, the hybrid of the Chainsaw Devil, the same devil that other devils fear because of the power to erase devils from existence, Denji stood no chance against the Darkness Devil. Just by placing his hands together, Denji's body was twisted together in an absolutely brutal fashion. The Darkness Devil decapitated Toka with ease. It made light work out of the Devil Hunter as the contract with the Stone Devil, and it sliced up Beam into ribbons just by pointing at him. Diving even deeper here, the imagery of what Chainsaw Man does with the Darkness Devil is absolutely out of this world. For instance, the astronauts that you see on the moon, space is a giant void of darkness. Going into space with no suit means that you die in the darkness. For years upon years, mankind tried to go into space only to be killed during their pursuit in the race to space that happened decades ago. The frog that we see in the darkness is a reference to the Egyptian deity of darkness itself, which oftentimes when you look at the god of darkness is depicted as a frog, and it has the ability to control darkness, much like the Darkness Devil can do. With the Darkness Devil, you got the chance to see both a very powerful devil as well as see how Fujimoto as a writer is showing off his ability to write and draw horror elements in Chainsaw Man. And with this stretch of the manga where you see the Darkness Devil, it's some of the best work in Chainsaw Man Part 1. The design itself pays off a few different tropes and cliches that you have with the Darkness Devil, from the Cloak of Darkness that you see it wearing to the skulls on his body, playing with the expression, hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. Understanding this makes you appreciate the Darkness Devil all that much more, because as a primal devil, it is fear itself, and when you look at it, it explains why everyone, including devils, is afraid of it. With this one devil, Fujimoto shows exactly why primal devils are to be feared, because even after the battle battle is over, we see characters like Aki rethinking whether or not he's really about that devil hunting life, and we see a character in power who's openly brash. Her personality takes a bit of a shift afterwards because she's so worked up over this that she's afraid to close her eyes at night, because when you go to sleep, you're going into the darkness. This is some of the best writing in Chainsaw Man Part 1. While the Darkness Devil is the only Primal Devil we've seen based off what we've seen in the manga so far, it still stands out in terms of power, and hopefully this video makes you better appreciate why Darkness Devil and whatever Primal Devils that we see in the future are to be feared so much in the world of Chainsaw Man. If you like this video, consider subscribing and click here to watch this other Chainsaw Man video you see on the screen, or click here to watch my other anime videos on the screen right now.